Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started today. Thank you so much for coming to tonight's WebHack event, Secrets to Going Up Your Career Ladder. Just introduction, my name is Zach. I am a senior facilitator here at Indeed, and I'm very happy to be here today. Today we have four great panelists. They're going to be sharing with you a lot about their experiences in the tech industry and really trying to hopefully give you some good advice on how you can really advance in your career. Okay. So just a little bit of housekeeping rules. Again, you can keep getting your food, keep eating, that's fine, but try and be as quiet as possible. A couple of housekeeping rules here. So we have a lock system that goes into the hallway. So if you need to use the restroom at any point, be sure to try and find somebody from Indeed with a badge, because that's the only way that you can leave and get back in. So please be sure that you find some help going in and out of the doors outside. Also, our last part of this event is going to be a mingling session, and it will end promptly at 9:45. So we will be playing some music, so you won't miss it. But yes, please start to leave and gather your things at 9:45. All right, are we all good with that? That sounds good. All right, so for our agenda for tonight, so we're going to be starting off with our panel discussion. So we're going to have our four panelists come up, and they are going to be speaking on some predetermined questions that we have already created for them. Then starting from 7:55, we're actually going to be answering some live questions from you all. So you can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, we have a live feed that will consistently refresh on Twitter for any questions that you all submit. So I'll show you the QR code in a minute so that you can do that. And then we are going to take a short break, and we are going to move into our breakout sessions for the evening. So this one, it gets a little bit complicated. So we have two separate sessions going on at the same time. You'll choose which one you want to go to. So one will be still in here, and it's going to be a fireside chat and a Q&A. This is going to be about challenges about managing a team. So if you're interested in that topic, please stay in this area, and that conversation will happen here. The other workshop that we're going to be doing is going to be about how can you set up more personal career goals. How can you determine what you need to do next in order to achieve that goal, and have a discussion and a chance to ask your peers and some panelists for some advice. So if you're interested in that topic, you will be gathering in the reception area right around 8:15. All right. And then finally, from 9 o'clock, we're going to all gather back here for mingling, networking, just to enjoy each other's company and round out the night at 9:45 and finish off. All right, great. So that's going to be our agenda for tonight. And you should see here a QR code that leads you to this Twitter right here. So please go ahead, get that pulled up on your phones now. If you are interested in asking some questions, you can see the live feed from there. And that will be the second half of our panel tonight. So this QR code will come up again later on. So if you think of another question, don't worry, it'll be there for you to check out. Great. So again, this is an event by WebHack. This is an organization that really creates a learning community here in Tokyo. And actually, it's pretty exciting. It's our 30th event tonight. So really good hard work from the WebHack group and really holding these events for us here. And just as a sign of appreciation for the panelists today, one of the co-founders, Greg, wherever you are, Greg, thank you so much. He made these homemade pies for the panelists here to show some appreciation. So let's get it up for the WebHack community. Thank you so much. Awesome. So yes, very exciting WebHack. We've had 30 events so far. We've had about 1,400 attendances and about 1,000 community members. So it's a really thriving community here, engineering community here in Tokyo. So if you're interested to learn more, get updates about future events, learning how to sign up, please check out this QR code right here, and you can get all the information that you need. All right, it's a really great community. I really highly recommend you attend more events in the future. And we, of course, cannot forget our sponsors for the evening. So these are the organizations that brought us this awesome food, this awesome swag, drinks, everything. So let's give a hand for our sponsors, Indeed and You Next. Yes. Yes. So not only have they provided this delicious food and drink for us, but also really the most important thing is they've helped to create and foster a collaborative working environment for engineers here in Tokyo. So that's really the ultimate goal of WebHack, is creating this space for all of you engineers to connect, network, and really use each other to help advance your careers. So thank you, Indeed, and You Next. And just a little bit about the companies themselves, because maybe in the future, if you're looking for a job, you might want to join the organizations. I have some people to tell you a little bit about them. So I'd like to invite up Joy Tan, the site lead for Tokyo Tech Indeed.
Hello, how's it going, everybody? 3 people said good. All right, thank you. How many people have been to an event here at our offices here in Indeed? Hands, a couple of people, some Indeedians, that's good. Cool, well, if you have, how many people were here in November when we did something here? Yeah, okay. Well, this is exactly the same thing I'm gonna say there, so. There you go. You're welcome. Just quick intro to what we're doing here at Indeed. You know, it's super easy to start out slides at Indeed because we always have this. We help people get jobs, which is a very, I think, impactful and meaningful mission statement to us. And I think, you know, we're here discussing about how to go up in your career ladder. And I think one of the ways it's been helpful for me is to be part of a company that you can really align with their mission statement. And that's something that we definitely have here. Just a little bit about Indeed. Some numbers. We have over 60 countries that are using Indeed, 28 languages. 56% of Indeed visitors are from outside the US. 250 million global unique visitors. 25 million total jobs on Indeed. 10 new jobs added per second, and 10 million stories by people who have found a job with Indeed. So that's pretty cool. You may see that in kind of walking around our offices. These stories are shown in these monitors periodically. So, you know, I don't know if you guys have seen Silicon Valley, but sometimes, you know, when you start a new job, you look around and you try and figure out who's the good guys and who are the bad guys at the company. I think here at Indeed, the amazing thing for me at least was that I didn't really find any bad guys. And people were always very easy to work with, very friendly and eager to help you. And it didn't matter which team you were on, people were just willing to help. So that's been really awesome. Speaking of teams, you know, we have small teams that are driven by bottom-up initiatives. Teams have a lot of autonomy here to kind of carve their own path and the way they organize. We're very data-driven, so anybody here can come up with an idea. If it's backed by data, let's have a look and see how to move forward with it, and that's pretty cool. In terms of job satisfaction, we take care of our people. One of the things that we like to say at Indeed is that we want your next job to be at Indeed. In that sense, we're very invested in growing our people. We do quarterly reviews to give constant feedback to folks and see how they can improve and grow in their jobs. I guess speaking of that, this is a small chart that I made showing my happiness at work relating to how many lottery tickets I buy. And thank you for laughing. I have not bought any lottery tickets yet, so. So one last thing before I go, I think if you read between the lines of our message, I like to talk about how, you know, helping people get jobs is cool, but underlying that is also we're solving unemployment in the world, which is a pretty cool mission to have, and I think it's very impactful. Helping people get jobs changes people's lives. So some of the things that we're doing here in Tokyo, we have teams, you know, focusing on high priority markets like Japan and in Europe and in India. And we also have folks that are working on creating like a better user profile to better match with employers. Those are just a couple of teams that we have. So, you know, think about it. Speaking of unemployment, unemployment in the US right now is around 4% or a little less than 4%. Here in Japan, it's around 2.5%. What if, you know, at your time here at Indeed, we can see that number move down? And because that's what we're doing here. And it's a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all the folks here. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So again, I think that there are some people that have come in. If you've just come in, please feel free to get food. It's totally fine. Just try and be as quiet as possible. And yes, please come back and sit down and join the event. So next, we have another speaker to introduce the other sponsor for tonight, UNext. We have Ryan. So give it up for Ryan. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan. I work at UNext. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction of our company and what we do, and hopefully you'll be interested in us. Come work for us. So UNext, it's a place where you can watch, read, and listen to everything in one place. So we basically try to take all the content, manga, anime, all your favorites, and put them in one site that allows you to access everything together. So we have 170,000 films and TV shows, which I think is the largest catalog in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't. And we have movies, TV shows, K-dramas, Japanese dramas, of course, anime, kids shows, and so on and so forth. Then we also have books as well. So a large selection of books. Again, manga, light novels, and your average books. So we also serve that to all platforms. Your TV, if you have a smart TV, you might have a UNext app already on it. If you have an iPhone or Android device, of course, we have apps for those too. Your PlayStation and your desktop PC as well. So I want to tell you a little bit about how our team works and how our structure at the company is, because we do things a little bit differently than most companies. This is the older slides, this guy. So this is like this is really rough, but your average organization of a structure, you have, your teams and their managers and their managers and those managers manager. And we're just like super flat, like hyper flat, mega flat. We all are equal, and we don't like to think of anybody being higher than anybody else. We value everybody equally. And if you were just to bundle these boxes in smaller circles with 5 or 6 people, you would have our teams, which are owners of products. And the great thing about this is, well, we don't have to go through a million managers to get things approved. We trust our teams. We trust the people on our teams to do the things that we hired them to do. If we hire you to build a front-end application, we're hiring you because we trust in your talents to do so. So your choices you make and your stack you choose is really up to you. And of course, your team, because team's consensus is the most important thing in this sort of structure. And of course, we have our CTO we all report to, who is doing the macro managing. These teams are self-motivated and self-driven. So if you feel passionate about the product, which is very easy to be at UNext, this works very, very well for us. As for the tech stack, because of the nature of this, and because our teams are basically can choose what they want, we end up with just a pretty wild tech stack. Of course, not every team is using all of these at the same time, but these are just some examples of some of the buzzwords of different things we're using at the company, with the bigger ones being things that are more prominent. We have a very large investment in GraphQL. Obviously, our front end is React. We use Apollo for GraphQL, Java, Python, and so on and so forth. If you see one of your favorite languages there, or even if you don't, that's okay. Come work with us. You can convince us to use it. So if you are an engineer whose ambition is front-end development, because we need those guys, or UX research, search and recommendation, product lead, or if you're just a talented engineer who maybe doesn't fit into these categories, but is looking for a position, please just, type Unix jobs into Google. Go to the website, or come to our table over there at some point and talk to any of the guys there, because they would be super happy to hear from you, and we'd be super happy to have you. But please enjoy the event, enjoy the pizza, which there doesn't look to be much left of that. Sorry. And that's it. Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. And yes, again, so we have booths for Indeed, Unext, and WebHack to your right. So during the mingling and the networking part of this event, please feel free to go over there, learn a little bit more about the organizations. There's a little bit of swag as well, and there'll be people there that would love to give you more information if you're interested. So yes, thank you so much for the sponsors. All right. Now is the time that you've been waiting for. So I would like to invite all of the panelists to come up here and join me on stage. Let's give them a hand. You have to sit in front of our pictures. No. Okay. Sit wherever you would like. Why not? All right, great. So I'm just going to have everybody just introduce themselves very briefly for you all. You want to kick off?
Sure. Hi, my name is Benjamin Smith. I'm an engineering manager here at Indeed. Been at Indeed about 2.5 years. Started my career with the Internet 2.0, Web 2.0 boom and bust cycles. So I kind of feel like, but definitely my career, and if not myself, I've kind of grown up with the Internet. Learned a lot along the way, and hopefully we can share a little bit with you tonight.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's on me. Oh, good, this works, excellent. So yeah, my name is Don Wervey. I'm also an engineering manager here at Indeed. I manage the messaging team, so if you ever interact with Indeed over an instant messaging platform, yes, that's my fault. As far as my career, I kind of fell into technology. It's just kind of a weird place to be. I started programming as a kid, and I just sort of continued doing that and just really fell in love with creating things with software. It's kind of amazing what you can do, where you have an idea and you can realize it without having to invest a ton of money in tools or building things or having to pour concrete or anything like that. And so it's being able to create things directly from your mind, I think, is the real magic for software for me. Of course, then I went and I got a degree in mathematics and Japanese, which is totally related. But yeah, been at Indeed for about 1.5 years, and I think, like Joey said, I really like being here. So yeah.
I think you need math to go through Japanese so you can count all the kanji that you have to learn.
So funnily enough, mathematicians can't count. Yeah.
My name is Zach Brown. I run Pivotal Labs here in Tokyo. I've been at Pivotal for 6.5 years and transferred here to run the Tokyo office just almost 2 years ago now. And in that time, Pivotal very recently was acquired by VMware. So we're still running Pivotal Labs, but it's now a VMware company. I started my career as a programmer and have taken quite a few twists and turns along the way, managed a data warehouse and quite a few other things along the way. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And of course, Pivotal, we're always hiring and looking for great engineering minds, product managers, designers. So if you are looking for a job, talk to me afterwards. Thanks.
Okay, it's my turn. My name is Rutong Li. In Chinese, I'm for the company Rutong, Li Rutong. Yeah, I guess it's many people who understand Chinese here, right? Okay. I've been working for Unix for about 4 years. I'm the chief trivial officer in the company, because I'm in charge of all trivial things. Well, that's a kind of a joke, but it's real, because rather than managing the team, I'm more like a farmer to make sure the farm is okay, so that every engineer can grow organically, freely in our farm. That's my responsibility. I guess Ray has given lots of introduction of our company already, so I just skip that part. Okay. Nice to meet you guys.
Great, thank you so much. I think that the mics were turned up, so can everybody hear well? Okay, good, awesome.
Cool.
So we'll jump right into the first question. So the question is, which skills played the most critical role in going up in your career ladder? And this can be whether or not you are a new grad just going into your career, or let's say you're up a few levels or up a few positions and you're looking maybe to move into management. So this really is a free-for-all for everybody to answer, so.
Well, I'll just jump right in if that's okay. I think if you're just starting out, and the truth is, I think this is good advice no matter where you are in your career, you should always aim to be the dumbest person on your team.
That's a good one. I really like that. That's a really good one.
So the reason is that if you surround yourself with people that know more than you, that are way smarter than you, then you're always learning. And that's really important. And especially earlier in your career, probably more important than what company you work for or even like what your salary is or what your title is. It's what team you work on and how well you connect with those people. And if they're really great people and they're really motivated, then they're going to go on to do great things. And the time that you spent together working together will be valuable to, maybe they'll go start a new company and bring you along for the ride or something like that. So those connections really, I think, pay off in spades in your career.
I like that one. I like that one a lot, especially because it ties in really nicely to the idea that you should always be focusing on learning. And if you're surrounded by smart people all the time, you can definitely do that. Maybe, and I'm going to riff off of this a little bit, like if you're surrounded by all those people, I'm going to say that I think kindness is a skill. Because you already took a great one, so I have to go for the next one. And I kind of highlight this because it can be really easy to get focused on, oh, I just need to do my work. I need to get things done. This person's in my way. I need to get them out of my way. I'm just focused on getting my career done. And when you're kind to the people around you, when you are somebody who is recognized by your peers as, I can go to that person for help. That person is always there I can ask them questions, I can bounce ideas off of them. Sure, they're not the most senior person on the team, but they're always there with constructive feedback. They're always there to help other people, and they're kind about it. When they have criticism to offer, when they have critical feedback to offer, they don't come in and say, well, you're stupid, you did this wrong. They come in and say, maybe here's something you should try doing differently next time. You should maybe try taking this approach. And so by having that kindness as a skill, if you will, it means that people are going to be a lot more open to wanting to work with you. And so you stand a much better chance of being the dumbest person in the room. So yeah, I think kindness would be the one that I would lay my card down upon. Yeah.
For me, it's definitely communication. Communication, both written and verbal, I think stand out as the most important skill regardless of what job you have.
Yeah.
As long as you're not in a purely creative endeavor where you don't need words to express yourself, I think it's of the utmost importance. Even with somebody who's got a high amount of technical acumen that's required to execute their job in a day-to-day basis, actually explaining what they're about to do, explaining what they did, adjusting the way you're explaining it to other people, good documentation surrounding your efforts, automating yourself out of a job via leaving a good, well-readable paper trail behind you of what you've accomplished. Being able to write succinct summaries of what you've accomplished up to your bosses and people around you to evangelize your efforts or at least spread awareness of them. I'd say regardless of what your job function is, investing heavily in written and verbal communication is critical. The best way to practice that once you're out of school is probably reading the words of people you respect that are good at communicating, and then practicing, actually writing yourself. I would also say that is part of a toolbox full of important skills. For me, I think the kind of combination of skills that has served me well in my career at all stages is a combination of curiosity, project management, and communication. Looking at the workplace around you and being curious about what other people are working on, what challenges they have, who's actually consuming the outputs that you're putting out. Once you're curious enough to stumble upon an interesting problem at a workplace, having project management skills such that you can put together a plan on how to do something about it and encourage others to help you actually do something, and then communicating with others as you go through that process, both soliciting feedback and then telling other people about what you're working on, I think are a key set of skills that will help people grow regardless of what stage you're at in your career.
I really want to throw something extra on top of that because that's a great answer, but.
Yeah, okay. My answer to this question is generic problem-solving skills. But it is a meta skill that you cannot really learn it. It's basically, you can only practice it. And I find a really efficient way to practice is always trying to solve problems by the way that you don't know yet, by the technology you don't know yet. Although you know a very efficient way to solve problem already, when the time is allowed you to do that, when there's enough resource, try to do it another way. Maybe you find it's the other way just done. It's just much worse than your existing one, but that's okay. And by repeating this, when you face real problems, you have many tools in your hand to solve the problem. Yeah, that's well, kind of similar to the first answer that you try to become the devs. You always try to learn from others, whatever the new way, the new tool, the new way of thinking. All these will help you at some point. Maybe you don't know yet, but they will just converge at a point when you need it. That's my experience. Of course, I didn't know this before when I was like 10 years ago. It's somehow just been put in such situation, which now I go back and think, oh yeah, then maybe that's the reason I learned so much strange ways of solving problems. That's, yeah, my answer to this question.
Do we have a, oh, please.
If there's enough time, I just want to add one more soft skill, and that is feedback. I think feedback is totally underrated. And it's something that everybody should be actively seeking out, not waiting for it to arrive, but asking the people around you, asking who you work for, the people that you sit next to. If you manage people, ask the people that you manage for feedback about how you're doing. And then here's the other part. It's kind of like a game. The more difficult the feedback is to hear, the more painful it is to hear, the more valuable it is to help you grow. So, so really aim to collect that difficult to listen to feedback. Even if you're squirming in your seat and you're thinking in your own mind, like, this is totally not true, or it was just that one time and that's not who I normally am. The advice I have for you is shut up. Just listen to it and don't say anything other than thank you, and I'll reflect on that. There's really no better answer. The more that you jump into defensive mode, the more you are ensuring that the person who gives you feedback will never ever give you feedback again.
It's hilarious that you brought that up because I was going to say self-criticality, but feedback is a better way of putting that. It can be really easy to get stuck in the trap of like, oh, I'm so great, I know what I'm doing, I'm really skilled at these things. But it's really important to be able to step back and say like, what don't I know? Do I really understand that as well as I think I do? I should probably go and challenge those assumptions that I have about myself. Like, let's say I think I'm a really great Ruby programmer. Well, do I really understand this? Or I think I'm really great at doing pair programming. Well, okay, like how do I actually know that? I need to challenge that assumption that I have about myself, and I need to always be open towards the idea that maybe I don't know as much as I think that I know. Feedback is a great, of course, to solicit this, but always being open to the idea that you might be wrong. I mean, I think there's a phrase, strong opinions weakly held. And so it's great to have those strong opinions. It's great to feel confident, but not to feel so confident to the point where if somebody challenges that, if somebody comes in and says, you know, actually, some of this code, I don't really understand it. It's not really readable. What do you mean? I write the best code. You know, being willing to say like, oh, you know, like, walk me through this, like show me the parts that you don't understand. Always being willing to dive into that and being willing to accept that criticism, I think is a really powerful skill as well. Yeah.
Well, one other way to think about it is that the first time you do anything, it's pretty much guaranteed you're gonna suck. And that's okay. What's not okay is not being willing to grow and get better. So, so it's okay that you're not perfect out the gate. It's okay that we all have areas to improve. And feedback is a great mechanism for finding out what those are. It's better to know about the areas that you have to improve and what your blind spots are.
Yeah, I guess it's one word, but probably I pronounce it wrongly. It's called the Kruger effect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's about self-awareness. It's always trying to ask myself, am I Kruger right now? It's like, not be able to recognize what I don't know.
Yeah, am I doing this thing where it's like, I think I'm really great, but I'm actually not. And that's that whole Kruger thing. Maybe an interesting observation as well, and something, the meta level observation on everything that we're sharing here is what we're talking about is, note the quotes, soft skills. Like, I don't think any of us here said, like, you know, the most critical skill that you need is Java programming. You know, is Golang. You need to be really, really good at Bash scripting. You know, said none of us. And so I think that that's a really interesting takeaway. I always hate that they're called soft skills because they're really hard. You get this thing, right, where, you know, a lot of us are programmers and engineers, and computers are for the most part logical, depending on the CPU and also the programming language. But you know, they're easy to predict. If you run a command, you know what's going to happen. And people don't go that way. Sometimes you'll maybe give somebody a piece of feedback thinking like, oh, I'm being really kind, I'm offering them something, you know, helpful, and they'll take it the wrong way. Or you'll do something for somebody and you just won't anticipate the response. Or you'll write something down. Written communication especially can be very hard with this, where you tend to sound much harsher when you write something than when you say it in person. So you think you've written something that is kind, but when that person reads it, they interpret it much harsher than you intended. And so all of those soft skills really, really matter, and they're a lot harder to master, I think, than most people really give them credit for. They're also super valuable, and the great news is they're all skills. You can learn them. There's nothing magic. It's not something you have to be born to do. They're skills that anybody can learn given time, given the ability to look at yourself and say, how am I doing? And the willingness to go ask others and say like, hey, did I communicate that as well as I should have? So yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really great answers. I like that summary at the end there as well. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. So this one is techniques to manage up, or how do you manage your manager? And to give some context around this question, it's really about how can you set expectations with your manager in order to have a shared knowledge of responsibility and have expectations there, as well as maybe things like negotiating promotions or working around that.
So who here thinks that they really deserve a promotion and they haven't started having a conversation with their boss that says, I need to have this concrete plan to get there? Is there anybody here who's like, I'm really ripe for a promotion right now and I'm frustrated that it just hasn't come to me? Okay, I think people are just afraid to raise their hand. But there's some bad news here. The bad news is you don't deserve a promotion. You don't get a promotion for something you did. You get a promotion for what you're going to. And what I mean is you need to sit down with your manager and make a plan, and that plan will be detailed. It'll probably be in a Google Doc or a Word document saying these are the things I need to do in order to get to the level where I will be promoted to, you know, from, I don't know, senior engineer to staff engineer or whatever that looks like. And then you do all those things. And once you've done that, you have this piece of paper, this piece of evidence, and this conversation between you. It is no longer about whether you deserve it because you've specifically earned it. So the reason I've phrased it this way is because I think that sometimes we fall into the trap of thinking like, oh yeah, well, performance reviews are coming up in a couple months, and maybe this is the year that I'm gonna get a promotion because I know I've been working really hard. But if you're not already talking to your boss about how to get to that next level, then it's probably not going to happen. So the most important thing to realize here is that your career belongs to you. And therefore, you've got the responsibility to own it and to manage it. And I think it's a mistake, and I think it's a mistake that we commonly see here in Japan, actually, to kind of sit back and think that your career is something that happens to you, that the company is responsible for giving you a promotion when you're ready for it, or giving you more responsibility, or your manager is. But it really is all about you and how much you want to take personal ownership.
Oh, do we allow to have disagreement?
Yeah,
in the panel? Okay. Okay.
It's like, no, your career belongs to me.
Okay, but I totally agree that yeah, your career belongs to you, and you have your own career. It's your own responsibility. It's not your manager's responsibility. It's not company's responsibility. It's not our responsibility to build your own career. I totally agree with that. But one thing I don't agree is it's very important what you did gonna affect your career. It's not what you're going to do, not just work. Of course, that's important. You need to have the plan. You need to let your manager know that you can do it. But it's very, but it's totally related to how you have been doing from that point, before that point. Why I talk about this is it's not I learning from it. I learned from myself because I probably never negotiate a promote with my manager. My manager negotiate promote with me. It's kind of that, yeah. It's because from the very beginning, I just want to be an engineer. It's and I do the engineer. It's funny. It's funny. It's fun. It's you don't have much pressure. But when you start managing people, things changes. That's also why I'm still not managing people now, even now, given my position. I guess maybe just my manager find out that, okay, maybe this guy can do this based on what I did before that. That's why I'm thinking what you've been done before is also important. It's not just have a huge plan. If of course it's important, but just by the plan, your manager won't think you are capable to do the next level things. Yeah, that's, yeah.
So if I could just clarify real
Yeah.
quick. So the point I was trying to make by saying you don't get promoted for what you did before isn't that everything that you've done up to now doesn't matter. But it is that if you don't have a clear checkpoint where you're reviewing that with your manager as steps to get to the next place, then you can't be guaranteed that it's actually moving you towards the next level. And so another way to say it might be, when's the best time to sit down and make a plan with your manager about how to get to the next job level, the next promotion level that you want to get to? That would be like the first day after your last promotion. You really need to start proactively thinking about it immediately and not be like, oh, I'm going to stay here and work for a few years and see if I get promoted. And then by the time that you are, asking your manager for a promotion, you already have, 3 years of work in and you think you really deserve it, but they're going to want to start the clock from the point that you talk to them. So you need to talk to them early.
Yeah, I think it's true. Ben, I think you want to chime in on?
Well, yeah, on that same thread about who owns your promotion or your career growth. I definitely think it is on the individual and to have the primary responsibility. Many organizations across the world would be happy for you to continue doing your same job for the same pay forever, assuming you're a valuable employee. One of my peer managers here at the company mentioned that when he explains career development to some of the people who work with him, he explains it like it's the rules to a board game. And I think if you kind of put that lens on it, that there's a discoverable set of rules at every organization, that if you abide by these rules, if you put in the work necessary to go through the levels, you can achieve the career ambitions you've got. The hard part is kind of discovering the rule book or understanding what the rules are. I think a partnership with your manager is definitely the easiest place to start to discover those rules. But sometimes the rules aren't written. Sometimes your managers don't know the rules. Sometimes the rules are evolving around you as the company is growing or shrinking or going through different changes. I guess having lots of conversations with people around you about not being shy to be honest with what your aspirations are, asking for feedback on your aspirations, being transparent about that, I think are all kind of ways that you can go about getting feedback on your understanding of the rules that you will need to abide by to navigate through your career. That's my perspective on it.
I find myself in violent agreement. I think with kind of broadly across the panel, maybe something else like a little plus alpha to add on top of that is that you're the person who cares the most about your career. I mean, it's not even just a matter of owning it, because I think a good manager, a good coach, and this is something that we're actually really big on, and Indeed should be helping you to figure out what that path is forward for you. They should be helping guide you within the organization, help you understand what those rules really are. What is the game that you're playing? But at the same time, if you're in a team, your manager has some number of other people that they're also responsible for. They're not going to drive it for you. They might be able to help you kind of understand the game, understand the rule book, understand the things that you need to be doing to make it towards that next level. But not only do you actually have to drive that, it's not just a matter of you're going to get this plan that you're just going to check boxes. You really have to not only drive that, but you also need to drive figuring a big chunk of it out. And I think one of the better pieces of advice that I got is Actually, I'll give two of them. One of them is make it really, really easy for your manager to promote you. So when it comes to things like bonuses or getting promotions, if your manager has to do things like compile data to showcase your performance, go to your manager with that data because now it's already there and they don't have to do that work. If you need to do something like showcase outcomes from a project, compile those outcomes, put that together and bring it to them. Make it easy for that person to stand up and say, well, here's all of this data. I actually didn't need to compile it. They took the initiative and they did it. That shows that you're fully involved in your career. One of the things that, a conversation I've certainly had with people is that I'm very happy to pair with you. I'm really big on pairing. I will pair with you on any of the stuff that you need to get promoted, any of the stuff to help you get bonuses. We will work together. I will guide you. I will provide insight. I will give you appropriate feedback, and we will work together on this. But I will only put in as much effort as you do. If it's not something that you want to spend time on, I mean, that's fine. You can keep doing your job. That's okay. But I can't pull that forward for you. I can't do the initiative for you. You have to own that. And I think the other really good piece of advice that I got is don't just work for your current job, work for the job that you want to have. So if you want to be a manager, I was gonna say, did you have something you want to chime in on?
No, I like that. I think you need to always be doing that as well.
Yeah.
Working one level up.
Yeah, one level up. I like that. So if you want to be a manager, start to build those management skills. Look for opportunities within your team to say, okay, I'm an IC now, but how can I maybe take some of the load off my manager and learn some of those management skills? Or if you want to go on the technical fellow track, which I think is absolutely a great way to go as well. It shouldn't be just management. There should be other options if you want to go deep on the technical side. Really start looking and saying, okay, how can I take ownership over going down that level? How can I share knowledge? Because I think one of the important things for being a truly master level contributor to being a technical fellow or what staff engineer, I think was one of the terms you used, that sort of level is you have to be able to teach others. You need to be able to share those skills. It's not just what you know. You can be the best in the world at something, but there's only one of you. And so being able to create more people that have that deep understanding is also really, really powerful. And it showcases your understanding. It allows you to confirm that you actually know that technical thing as well as you think you do. So do that, even if it's not part of your current job, work for that job that you want to have. And that also makes it really easy to get you promoted because we can say, well, they're already doing that job. We may as well give them the title and the salary. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
Oh, actually, I want to add something new from another perspective. And sometimes you really need, you need Indeed because sometimes you just cannot solve it. You need to change a manager. You need to change a manager. Yeah, it's like to me, a good manager managing jobs and managing works and help his reports or her reports to finish work. A bad manager yelling at his reports to finish work. So if you, unfortunately have a manager only yelling at you, then maybe it's time to change a manager. And of course, there's another way from the other side. If you are always being managed by your manager, you'll never be promoted. Yeah, it's basically, if you need your manager to be managed, you need your manager to manage you, then you'll never be promoted. It's always like that. I guess the first step is, of course, you need to basically evaluate whether your manager is the first kind or the second kind. And if your manager is the first kind, then you need to find out what's the correct move I should move well, I can, for example, how to say that. One step faster, quicker than your manager. That's always, when he needs something, or when the work needs something, you did it already. Yeah, that's which leads you to the promotion.
I think that's a great point. Yeah. Managing up is never easy, especially, well, I guess whatever level of an organization you get to, always your boss is going to be a higher level person and more scary as you go up your career ladder in general.
More busy.
Yeah, but there is something really to be said about the horrors of working for a toxic boss who's not going to be working in your favor or supporting you in your growth. And so, if you find yourself in such a situation, having a critical look at it and not staying there longer than you should have would definitely be some advice that I would underscore. Yeah, take serious inventory of your options if you find yourself in such a situation.
I would say that anybody who thinks that you can motivate somebody by yelling at them really has no business being a manager, but that's a different story. That's a totally different topic.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much. Really good answers here. We're gonna move along in terms of time, but really, really great. Thank you so much. All right, this next one. So this one's gonna be a little bit more personal, but please tell us of a time or some length of time, a time of your life, when you overcame some kind of large obstacle or some big hurdle that you had, and what are some of the learnings that you had from that experience?
I think I've got a good one, but it's going to sound really, really cheesy. Bring on
the cheese.
Yeah, no, it's straight up Velveeta. It's bad. So I think the biggest obstacle that I can look at that I had to overcome is about 5'8" and 90 kilograms, and it's me. So I definitely had a problem. You know, when I talk about things like be kind, empathy is so powerful. Be self-critical, be humble. Yeah, those were all things that younger me really wasn't very good at. I mean, you know, there were, and also, you know, lots of arrogance, lots of, oh, I don't need to learn that thing. Why would I care about that new technology? Pairing, why would I want to do that? Who needs to write tests? I'm a great programmer. All of these things are, looking back at younger me, you know, especially stupid younger me, the teenage years, was definitely part of my mindset. I had this mindset of, I know what I'm doing and I don't need to listen to other people. I had to get over my own ego. Like that was a massive obstacle for me, was getting past the idea that I was this really awesome rock star person, and I needed to go to people and tell them, you know, I don't really understand this. I needed to be, frankly, for lack of a better word, vulnerable, and go and ask for help. And do it from the right people too, because if you have somebody who's just gonna, you know, mock you or belittle you, then of course it's really hard to do that. If you go to somebody and say, you know, I don't really understand Java all that well, and they go, well, you stupid, how did you even get a job here? You're of course never going to do that again. But you need to be willing to get past that idea of like, you know, it's, I don't know this thing and I need to figure that out. Or, you know, I did a really poor job of communicating with that person, or I was really rude. Getting past that for me was really, really hard. And so this is why I say I was my own biggest obstacle, because I fought it for years. You know, interviews, I think, so I've railed for years against doing the, you know, the standard computer science interview where you have like algorithms, questions and whatnot. I still don't think it's the best way to assess people, but I finally said, you know what, I'm going to get over myself. I'm going to spend some time boning up on this so that I can actually start to, you know, go down the career path where I want to be going. I'm going to eat that because it is something that I need to do that's on the way of where I need to go. So getting past my own ego, I think was probably the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome. Yeah. Also, vampires. Vampires are really dangerous too. Like, yeah.
I have a similar answer for early on in my career. I thought that I wanted to build my career on my own shoulders. Networking was specifically a hang up on me, that I didn't want to be beholden to my success through others. I thought that was for salespeople, for marketing people. That's not for me as an engineer who's good at his craft. It took several years to, I guess, gain some maturity to realize that only through working with others and getting people's help can you really accomplish large, impactful things. And a lot of my further opportunities in life have come through great relationships that I built with people at work. So looking at relying on others as a weakness was definitely an immaturity that I had early on in my career that took some painful lessons to get past.
Yeah.
I'll spin this one a little bit, and I don't know that it's a story about a great personal obstacle, but when you're looking for a job, we're talking about humility and networking, and I think building your brand is a really important skill in this day and age.
Yeah.
How many people have submitted a resume online to AWS or Amazon? Nobody's willing to raise their hand in this thing tonight. Or Google, or okay. So and did you ever even hear back? So it seems like a lot of times you submit resumes in these online applicant tracking systems, and it's like spray and pray. You're sending your resume out to a million different places, and you're lucky if you get a call back from them and get screened out by some sort of a recruiter.
We actually have a term for this in Indeed. We call it the black hole problem because it's like sending your resume into a black hole and just sort of hoping. Yeah.
And so one of my, so overcoming that challenge, you know, at certain stages in my career when I was looking for a new job was a painful thing. And one way that I found that I made some progress on it was by really working hard on doing things like building a good LinkedIn profile and working on public things, whether that's a blog or speaking at a conference or you know, maybe contributing to an open source project on GitHub. And those things then sort of end up building this online reputation where companies start to come and recruit you. And there's this amazing flip that happens when you're asking somebody for a job. Let me give this example. I once asked an executive in the company I'm currently working for, are you trying to sell our company to Google? Because that was a rumor at the time. And he said to me, Zach, let me tell you something. You don't ever want to try to sell your company. What you want is for your company to get bought. And it was kind of a subtle difference for me at the time that I didn't really grasp. But I think it really, really applies to your career as well. So if you're in a position where you are getting actively recruited out of your current job, you are in so much more powerful position to negotiate for anything you want, whether that's for them to pay for your master's degree or for them to give you the salary that you want or the sign-on bonus or whatever that looks like, equity in the company. Then if you are there submitting your resume online, oh, I'm available, I'm looking for a job, and then you're waiting by the telephone, so to speak, for a callback. So the way that you work on getting actively recruited is by building your personal brand, whether it's LinkedIn or someplace out in the world.
I want to riff off of that really briefly.
Please, go ahead.
So one of the things about brands, like the reason why brands existed is it was some way for companies to create products and to say, yes, this is the thing that actually does what it says, what it's supposed to do. This is a high quality product. That's where brands come from. People would put their faces and their names on it and say, I, Don Werby, endorse this pumpkin juice. And so really, a lot of pumpkin juice in my family. And so one of the best ways to do that, to actually create that branding, is to be recognized by other people, and especially to be recognized by others as being helpful. So a LinkedIn profile is great. You absolutely want to have your information out there, and also to have things out there to say, this is me and this is what I can do for you. But when you have other people saying, oh, writing a blog article about I partnered with this, speaking slowly, that's another obstacle that I am really working on. So when you have other people recognizing you publicly and saying, wow, this person was really helpful to me. This is a person that changed our business. I worked with this person and it was a total game changer for me. That's a place where you building your brand really takes off. When it's not just you saying, look at how great I am. It's other people saying, you should talk to this person. So that's the place that you want to get. And I think my tool for that is be focused, but be relentlessly helpful towards other people. Yeah. So there we go. That's my riff on that. Move this guy out.
Maybe I will talk about this in a different aspect. It's probably, I'm still in it. It's like one of my largest. I'm still in it. It's be able to trust others' work. It's been very difficult to me, even now. When you start managing a team, like 5, 6 engineers, maybe you can still read all the code, watch all the pull requests. It's still possible, but when the team become larger, you can't really overlook everything. When that happens, it's very important to find to put yourself in the correct position that you have to trust others' work. It's actually I'm not giving any advice. I'm stating out this problem that I'm seeking for advices actually, because I can't overcome it yet.
No, that's a great obstacle though, especially for a manager.
Yeah, and now we have 80 engineers, and we have 400 repositories. I'm still trying to check all the pull recs. I cannot catch up. There's no way to catch up, and I don't have a way to solve it yet.
Just
Yeah.
accept.
No, of course, I'm not a reviewer. I just trying to make to have a track on all the changes and make the report, all the repositories.
You should try and take a vacation and see if the building burns down or whatever. You know, if the company's still there in a week.
Yeah, of course. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's just, yeah, it's very difficult to do it. Yeah.
In Japan, they invented a Hanko robot, which just stamps everything that comes across. Maybe you need something like that, which is
But I'm sure it only starts work at 9 a.m. I really like this one because it was something I struggled with in my first management role. I had a massive team. It was a whole employee. I had one. And candidly, I was a micromanaging jackass. I wouldn't trust him with anything. I wouldn't be like, hey, take this and drive it, take it and run with it. I had to control everything rather than just saying, okay, look, you own this thing, this is yours, I'll check in from time to time, but this is yours to drive. And that's really hard, especially when you've got serious things on the line and it's like the building might burn down or something like that. It's hard. That's a really, really hard thing to overcome. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So we're going to move on into our final preset question here. So this one's an interesting one. So when you're choosing between sticking with an individual contributor role and continuing on with just managing yourself versus becoming a manager of a team, what are the major considerations that you think are important in making this decision?
Ask yourself how much you love using Google Calendar. That would be, yeah, that's where I would go.
I would say that's true. Being a manager is hard. It's not something you should do just because that's your only path to getting a promotion. It's something you should do because you really want to do it. You really want to mentor people. You really want to help build and grow a team and grow those skills in yourself. Those are better reasons to be a manager, I think.
Yeah.
So sometimes some companies don't have a high-level technical IC track. And so sometimes maybe your only choice is to leave to another company. One thing I'll throw out there is that a lot of software companies have high-level technical positions where you can do things like be in a customer-facing role, sales engineering or consultant, or even, there's even a role, check this out, called field CTO, where your job is to go around and talk to people in the C-suite and draw pictures on a whiteboard of how all these systems connect to each other. And then sometimes maybe you go and build POCs in your home office, and you get to have a really impressive sounding title too.
Oh, you mentioned fields. I was kind of hoping it would be the chief turnip officer, but I guess that's not how that works. Very sad. Very
different
sad.
kind of field.
Yeah, well, that joke fell flat. Anyhow, yeah, I think that one of the important things here is understand really what the difference is before you start to go down that track. Dip your toe in as much as you can, like work with your manager to try some management duties out. And really also understand the difference between being a leader and a boss, because those are very, very different things. A boss is the person who yells at you and demands, why is this not, you said that you would have all of these things done on this date. Why isn't it there? It's like that. Ooh, software estimation, as it turns out, not easy. So really kind of understand those differences and understand what you're getting into. I think a lot of people look at the management track because it's just the natural career progression, right? That's where a lot of companies go, is that you have no choice but to go into management. And they do it because they want money, or because the worst reason is because you want to control other people, because you think, well, if I'm in charge, everything will be better. Woo, no, you should stay away from management at that point, because the reality is you're not in control. You're not ordering people around and people aren't following you as the great leader. You're actually kind of like, you're a mixture of a lot of things. You're a calendar warrior. You get really good at writing emails. Other things, you are a butler in a lot of ways. You're helping get things out of the way for your team. You're also a counselor in helping people with things that they struggle with. And people can bring things to you that can, it can really blow your mind as to, how do I even help this person? So there's this wide range of skill sets, and you're getting yourself into a very different world than programming. And so be very aware of that and go into it with the motivation of you want to empower people and you want to help people build great careers. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I have, I think, basically 18 people reporting up to me right now, but indirectly, maybe 45 people on my team that I care a lot about. I take their careers home with me, and I care about, you know, where they're going and what their problems are, and that brings stress. It can be hard. So yeah, I would definitely make sure that you're going into that with open eyes, rather than just going up to the next level on your career trajectory. But that said, you can build much bigger things when you're working through an organization, working through a group of people. I found in my specific path that I get a lot of satisfaction through the seeing an idea come into reality. That the actual hands-on work on the keyboards to make that idea a reality wasn't where I got the job satisfaction. Being there at the conception of it and then seeing through to the value in somebody else's hands is really where I get satisfaction from. When we have to go through and coach people on, you know, what do you want out of your career? One thing, I think Zach might have actually taught me this technique in one of his trainings, is to ask people, what is it that you're doing when you don't look at the clock anymore and you forget where you are and what time it is? And you look up and it's 3 hours past what you expected it to be. Those types of events when you're in the flow and you're just enjoying whatever activity you're on, if you can find a way to get paid for those types of activity, you'll be a much happier person. So taking, I guess, inventory of yourself and what you like to do, I'd say should factor heavily into your career ambitions rather than just looking at the career ladders put in front of you by your current employer. Because in a lot of cases, the next step that's going to give you the most fulfillment is not going to be at the organization you're at today.
Okay. Maybe answer this question directly. When choosing between individual contributor and manager, I guess my opinion is when you don't have to choose, just don't choose, because many of the soft skills are common between these two career paths. Things like problem solving, communication, risk assessment. All these are common between these two skill sets, these two career paths. So when you don't really have to choose, you can postpone it and just try to just grow those soft skills until at some point, maybe at your current position, current company, you have to choose. Then maybe that's time to choose. But before that, it's really like now I have to choose. Have to go to become manager. I have to become a individual contributor. It's going to be really difficult to choose when you don't know the future yet. So maybe focusing. How to say? Being bothered by the question. Maybe just use that time to do more things and practice more and be prepared for whatever opportunity is going to come to us.
I would say it's the hallmark of a good organization where you actually can move between those, where you can start to go down the management track and say, you know, maybe I do want to explore being more of sort of like a senior technical person, where you don't have to make that choice and live with it forevermore. I think that an organization that gives you the flexibility to fully explore your career is a really powerful thing. So I think that your organization should empower you to be able to make the right choices for yourself at any time. There's something else I wanted to add, but I've totally forgotten it. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So this is it for the pre-submitted questions, but we still have our Twitter feed coming up here. So if you hit a link on that QR code, you can submit a question. We have about 10 minutes or so that we can answer maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So if you have any burning questions, please let us know. Maybe we can take live questions from the audience.
I can start us off with a good question and then an answer.
Okay,
I'll
great.
ask this one to Don. So why is it that computer programmers like dark mode so much? It seems to be so popular. So I found.
You're asking the wrong person because I don't use it. So yes, that's a good Ben. Why is it the computer programmers shy away from light?
So what I heard about this is that it's because bugs are attracted to the light.
This is not how to go up the career ladder, by the way. At least not in comedy. Do we have a question?
I think we maybe have time for 2 questions from the audience. So the two hands that we have up, if we can get them a mic.
Hello. Why is there not a single woman on the podium?
Good question.
Thank you. But as a woman, I feel like there's no perspective in like a technical lead or a managing position if I see you guys sitting there. So maybe, do you have any advice how to bridge the gender gap in like managing or like more superior positions, and have some advice for women who want to climb up the career ladder and for men who might possibly be in the position of a manager who decide about the future of women? Thank you.
I think it really is a great question, and I hope that you are currently working for, or that you can find a role in a company that is really trying hard to break down the glass ceiling and find routes to promote women. And I know that that's something that we're working hard on at Pivotal, and it's the sort of thing that I think you can't stop working on.
I'll throw something a little concrete for me, and that is that don't look at a preconceived shape of a career, like e.g. that there is, everybody has to come from a computer science background, everybody has to follow these steps to get into management or to get into leadership. Look to both empower, this sounds cheesy as well, look to empower dreams, where when somebody says, I want to be a leader, help them build those skills. It doesn't matter where they come from or what their background is, help them realize that dream, or help them realize that they have a different dream, help them get the experience and the hands-on time so that they can say, actually, no, this is the thing that I want to do. Maybe I wanted to be on the technical track, but now I've decided I want to be in leadership. Or maybe I wanted to be in leadership, and now I've decided the technical track is right for me. So that would be, I think, my guidance, is look to empower the dreams of people rather than fitting everybody into one preconceived shape for what a career should look like. Yeah.
Well, I guess this question is great feedback for our WebHack organizers. Maybe more diverse panels in the future. Sounds like it would be great from the audience. Inclusion is really hard. It's a topic that comes up a lot in a lot of corporate circles these days, and a lot of companies talk about how to foster it and how to support it. It's very easy to make mistakes that cut people out of conversations, of opportunities. And so it requires, I guess, a lot of care and attention to make sure that all the voices on a team can be heard and have a chance to contribute, not just the loudest, not just the one who's hired as the most senior, has the largest title. I don't have great answers for this. I work with a lot of very, very capable and competent ladies on my team. But yeah, it's a hard thing to do. One technique that I've tried to adopt more is not just offering up opportunities for people to volunteer for, but actually volunteering individuals that I think are ready for the next step in their career for opportunities. Basically, instead of asking who's open for this role or possibility, actually identifying individuals that I would like to see take steps and grow in areas that they have not, I guess, volunteered themselves for in the team, and volunteer in a private one-on-one type of context to ask, we have this need on the team, are you willing to take this opportunity? More often than not, people say yes. I think people are often flattered when they're offered an opportunity to grow or try something they haven't tried on a team yet.
In the spirit of being inclusive.
It's okay to can finish
Please,
first.
please, please.
Yeah, well, I'm actually busy changing topics, so maybe you can finish that first.
I was going to actually throw something down. Please do not laugh at this. But something that I've actually introduced, and I just like doing it, is when it comes to figuring out things like who's going to facilitate a meeting. So a facilitation role is kind of a little mini leadership role. Rather than it being your manager picks, we roll dice. And this way, it's a fair chance for every single person in the team, regardless as to whether or not you're a really loud, outspoken, go-getting person, or you're maybe a shyer person, or you're new, or you're somebody who has who's always working closely with a manager. That does not matter because it spreads across the team fairly equally. And I think also looking for those mechanisms to really equalize that distribution, rather than it just being you as a manager selecting something. Look for ways to distribute that a little bit more equally, either via randomness or rotation schedules or things like that. And also, in the spirit of feedback, did this answer any of your concerns or questions? A little, okay.
Okay, I can't really speak for others, but in Unix, we are trying to solve the problem by ignoring it. Well, of course, don't take it bad. So when you always think that there's like this, the gender, the glass ceiling problems, LGBT, all sorts of things, those are problems you have to deal with it. We always think in that way. You always got some confirmation bias. So in Unix, we try to ignore this kind of problems. We don't admit this kind of problem exists. When we do recruiting, the gender whatever doesn't help the result. And basically we ignore the field, the gender field in the resume. We don't look at it. That's the way we try to solve the problem. Of course, maybe it's not Unix overall, but for engineering, for designers, that's the way we are taking. Try to not solve, but to work around the problem. Yeah. No, yeah, you say because we don't have the structure in our company. Yeah, that's why I am able to talk in this way. Yeah.
What are your current company breakdown numbers look like between men and women employees, or do you
we are much higher than the average of Japan if we talk about engineering. And engineering is how many percent? Actually, our chief talent officer is also there. 10% yeah, we have 10% female engineers in our company. I guess that's much higher than the average Japan. Yeah, but of course we achieve 10% not by here's a female engineer, we should lower our bar. We don't do that. We don't do that. We do this. We treat that as everyone say. Yeah, that's the way we try to assess this problem.
All right, fantastic. Very good answers to a very tough question, but thank you so much for that question there. So I think that actually we have maybe just a very few more minutes for one more question, maybe one response. If somebody has a really good answer for it, we can have that one more question. So is there one more burning question in the audience for a quick response? Okay, I think I saw two hands go up at the same time. All right, now's a chance.
I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for the wonderful insights.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. So my name is Mushtaq. I've been in Japan for about 15 months now, and I work at a traditional Japanese company. I'm sure some of them at least here are part of the same lifestyle as me, wherein it's whatever you guys spoke about was pretty good, but in a generic sense. Like from where I'm coming right now, I can never relate to most of them. So I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Like there's so many, this reading between the lines and like stuff which you think is normal and generic. It's just too weird here. So how do you, like, if given a chance, whatever you guys spoke about, just in a few lines, could you like differentiate as to what are the steps I need to, in case I want to stay at the same job? how different should I be in my sort of steps to go about climb the career ladder?
I don't know that that's the quick answer question.
Yeah,
my bad.
I think what you need to do is educate yourself and learn about what those systems is. Ben had a really good point about saying that it's like the rules of a game, and you need to understand what those rules are. And the difference is you came in here with one set of assumptions about what those rules are, and then you're living in a world where the rules are slightly different. And maybe they're not clearly written on the wall. So, I know that's not a very specific and actionable answer, but I think you need to get educated on how all of those pieces work, internal company politics, promotions, you know, how work is assigned, all of those things, working in teams versus individually, in order to be successful in that company, if you want to stay there.
Yeah, and talking about adapting to a totally different culture, because your Japanese business culture is very different from Western business culture, is ideally if you can find somebody in your team that you have a really good relationship with, a coworker, find yourself kind of a culture mentor. Even if it's not in your team and it's just somebody else who's a native, talk through some of your problems and some of your concerns. If it's somebody on your team, reach out to them and say, hey, look, I'm figuring this out. I'm trying to figure out how to best integrate into, being a great part of the team here, but I'm struggling in a lot of ways. So when I do something that's culturally inappropriate, I want to talk to you about this later on. And I'm going to ask for you to point out the places where I was rude to my boss and I didn't know, or I didn't show appropriate like kyotsukawa behavior. And if you have that culture mentor, I think that will help you identify the things that you don't even see yourself. Hopefully that's useful. Yeah.
Fantastic.
My pleasure.
Great question, great question. All right, well, that will conclude our panel discussion questions for tonight. So let's give a big hand for our panelists. Thank you so much. All right, fantastic. So right now it is 8:15. We will have a 15-minute break. If you are looking to go to the workshop about how to further your career and discuss with other peers, please meet at the reception area in 5 minutes. If you're here for the fireside chat Q&A about challenges of managing a team, stay in this room. There is also more pizza in the back. Please save it for people who have not had pizza already. All right? Thank you so much.
I like how our fireside chat is now with 100% less fire. Yeah.
Thank you.
I know I'm. Okay, I don't know if that's.
Excuse me, just a quick announcement. We have a couple open spots for the workshop. So if you're interested in sort of workshopping your 2020 career plan, please go to the front desk and first come, first serve.
To who want to go to the workshop, would you please move to the front desk and the staff will get you to the venue. Thank you.
Closer and further away, yes.
Hello, everybody. Now we are going to start the next session, the fireside chat with more audience questions. So it will be greatly appreciated if you want to come back to your seat. Please, yeah. Hello, everybody. We are going to have the next session. So it will be greatly appreciated if you want to come back to your seat. We have more seats in the front, and we will be closer to the panelists, so feel free to just pack up your stuff and move.
Yeah, like the point of a fireside chat is to kind of be by the side of the fire. So please, come on. We're all in this together. Yeah. I believe so. Yes. Yeah.
Front row's okay. Front row is open. Please.
You wanna? Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, we know who takes which chair because that says louder, and mine says slower. Cool. So I think we've got everybody here, and the fireside chat. I think the point is it's a chat. So if you have a question, we've got people with microphones. Feel free to throw in. If you have an opinion, if you've got something that you'd like to share, it's not just about us sitting here on the stage and talking. Like if you have some great advice, you should share that too. It shouldn't be just about us. And I think also we asked people to put stuff up on Twitter, like share some of your great questions, and then we didn't answer any of them. So maybe we might want to start with a Twitter question or two. Maybe start from the okay. I like the first one or the second one. These are all good, actually. Any preferences? We want to roll some dice. I actually do have dice. I could go get one in my backpack. Okay, I guess which we'll call it. Better yet, we're going to put this on you. Fangda, would you care to choose a question for us? Because otherwise I have to dig through my backpack for some dice.
Yeah, that would be my honor. And I'm personally, oh, by the way, I'm WebHack's organizer. Thanks everybody for coming. And I guess all the WebHack organizers are working very hard, even though we have some mistakes, to guarantee the wonderful events for today. And we hope you can continuously learn with WebHack. So if you have any constructive feedback, please feel free to go to that booth. We have WebHack organizers sitting here to listen to you. And back to our question, I'm working at Indeed as a software engineer, and I personally feel curious about how to measure my impact of an engineer. So I want to pass my microphones to all the senior leaders.
I think she just called us old.
Yeah, so measuring impact can be challenging, especially for something like software where it's not obvious what the end result is. I think that the more and more you can have engineers thinking about the end customer and how to add value for end customers, it's going to be more apparent when impact is achieved. So if you know what value means for your customers, if you know what kind of value your product is bringing, if you know how to measure that through things other than vanity metrics are, you got more users because you had a big marketing campaign, or you've got graphs that go up to the right. Having metrics that actually represent value, your customer achieved something but paid you less over time is more value for your customer. It might be non-intuitive of how that's valuable for a business, but having a cheaper product than your competitors will help you naturally grow over time, right? And encourage repeat business. Finding those ways that you can measure value, and then making sure that you actually measure projects and your initiatives against those type of measures, be transparent about it, talk about it a lot, will, I think, encourage people to naturally gravitate towards those efforts that are adding value for customers. And that's kind of a self-fulfilling cycle, in that if they're adding value to your customers, that's helping your business grow. That impact for them is helping them grow in their career, at least giving them good recognition that the type of things that they're choosing to work on, or the adjustments that they make to their work as they go about their day-to-day, is resulting in impact. Those are my thoughts.
I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of talking to end customers. Who is it that's using your product and deriving value from it? And that's what your real impact is. And so the one thing that I would add is, where I work, what we really like to do is make sure that engineers are sitting right next to and conversing with product managers and designers who are representing user needs and doing user research. And so that's not like a different team or a different department that sits in a different building or something like that. Everybody sits really close together. And so we're able to really talk and very clearly understand what that value is that the end users are getting out of it. So I think that's a good place to focus.
I think that when you look at being part of a team as an engineer, and see, I'm speaking slowly. I think that you actually have a lot of demands in different directions. There's of course satisfying the needs of our customers. That's really important. And indeed, that's people looking for jobs or jobs looking for people, I think is how you could phrase that. But both sides of the employer-employee marketplace. So those are our customers. You also have people inside the company. You have things like, maybe you build an API. Maybe you're not directly dealing with customers, but you're building an API. Well, you have customers inside the company. Maybe you are somebody who's really good at building communities. And so you organize a community inside of your company or your team to maybe help people upskill. Maybe you are somebody who is really good at teaching others. And so you build all of these things to help teach other people skills. Okay, yes, these may not be directly correlated to revenue or user benefit, but they're also important. And so on the one hand, as an engineer, no, you can't spend all of your time community building or building training programs. I think acknowledging that both the customer benefit and looking at that in terms of what needles did we move for our customers? What benefits did we bring to them? But also, what benefits did we bring to the people around us? Because I think that maximizes kind of the number of, maximizes the number of shapes of people that you can really include in that idea of being impactful. Because it's, at the end of the day, if you have a team that's like, okay, we delivered tons and tons and tons of customer impact, but we're all really miserable. I don't think that would be a great place to work or a great team. Whereas if you have a team that's incredibly happy and still delivering that customer impact, well, that has meaning to it. So acknowledging the contributions that are not just product, I think is a really important part of that as well. Yeah. I hope that's an answer to that question. If that person is here, if we didn't answer your question, please tell us. Do we want to do another Twitter question, or maybe open this up from the room? It's a fireside chat, and so this is all about managing teams, growing teams. So do we have any people from the room that had something they wanted to jump in on? I had one question earlier. There we go. Let's start from there.
Okay, thank you. So as someone who has been managing teams working remotely, I have found sometimes very challenging to keep those team members motivated. What would be a good advice that you could give on how to keep the morale like high, how to feel those people engaged?
Quick show of hands, by the way, how many people here are also managing remote teams? I'm just kind of curious.
Or has worked remotely for a remote manager.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to keep an eye on some of who you are, because I'm kind of curious also what some of the things that your remote managers have done that have been really motivational for you. Or the answer could just be like, no, they didn't motivate us at all. Either you want to jump on this, or I'm happy to, because I've done the remote management shtick before too.
Go for it.
So remote teams are hard. By the way, for you specifically, are they at least, do they have time locality, or are they in relatively closer time zones, or just everywhere?
Let's say it's like 4 or 5 hours time zone difference.
That's still a big enough gap to be difficult. So I think the challenges when you look at motivation, Dan Pink has this really great book called Drive. Most business books tend to be, frankly, pretty rubbish, but Drive is great, and it talks about motivation. And he kind of comes up with this triangle of motivation, which is that people are motivated when they have autonomy. They have the ability to control their own lives. When they have mastery, the ability to master the things that they do, to be an expert in the things that they know, and purpose. And purpose is hard, by the way, because for most companies, actually, no, that's unkind, but for a lot of companies, purpose is, hey, you see that rich dude? We're going to make him richer. And that's a lousy purpose. It's one of the things I love about the We Help People Get Jobs. Purpose is something Indeed has in spades. And so when you're looking at motivating people, look for ways to provide those things to the people that are there. So for example, you have a remote team, autonomy is going to be a really big part of that. It's probably one of the reasons that they are remote. Look at ways to bring, to kind of showcase how that autonomy has benefited other people inside of the team. Mastery is the really hard one with a remote team, because like, how do you upskill people when they're not physically there? So maybe things like training budgets. Hey, are there training courses that you want to do? Great. We have a budget that enables you to go do that, but it comes with a price, and that is that you need to share that knowledge with the team. And that's, of course, another great way to sort of bring those people up by enabling them to showcase, hey, look at this thing that I did. Something else that I've seen remote companies do, I did not, unfortunately, have the budget for this when I was managing a remote team, was you bring everybody together on a regular cadence. I mean, there's no substitute for human communication. I'm being in person.
I think that's really an important point.
Yeah. Do you want to dive in on that one?
Just the idea that, first of all, so in person, I think is crucial, but also, even remotely, having a regular cadence with your team on a Zoom or something like that, where you're able to see people's faces, and whether that's a daily stand-up or whether that's a weekly touch-base meeting, I think that's crucial. Of course, we all hate meetings, and we don't want meetings where we waste everybody's time. But there's a certain amount of just human connection in order to feel like you're a team and that you're working together that's needed. So so the easy way is to do some sort of a remote meeting on a cadence, and then the maybe more budget-intensive way is to bring people together into the same physical geography. And I think that that's also a really valuable activity to do in order to help cement the relationships between the team members into a real team, so that you can be more effective even though you're working remotely.
Yeah, and also making sure people get recognized, I think, is really important. So if you can have an email thread that goes out every Friday of like, hey, here's the cool thing I did this week, and where that can be shared around and people get involved and they check it out and they play with it and they give feedback. Making sure that people don't just feel that they're some cog in a machine in the middle of nowhere, and that they're actually part of something greater. It's difficult. Like, remote teams are not easy. Anybody here who's been on a remote team that has something that they thought was a really great thing that their company did to sort of motivate them or to keep them involved or feeling like they're part of it? Any takers?
Thank you. I work for a Spanish company, so I cannot go there to meet people easily. But what they did was we did escape room. It was so much fun, and I felt a bond between me and colleagues. And also, we do weekly meeting on Skype, and I can have a chat with my colleagues anytime I want. Well, I have to adjust to Spanish time, but I am motivated to do it because they're always willing to help me. So, yeah, that's it.
I like that. So
Escape room,
yeah,
activities.
yeah, shared activities, or escaping from things. No, I like that one. And you also brought up something really important where your coworkers are always willing to talk to you. Like nobody brushes you off and said, no, screw you, I'm busy. Don't come talk to me right now. The fact that they're willing to do that means that you're willing to reach out more. And so really being open towards people that talk to you, I think that's a really important thing. That's cool.
One thing that I think is important to keep in mind as you're managing remote teams is how you've designed communication channels or the tools that you've provided for people to communicate with each other. Asynchronous communication is critical. Having communication tools that are conducive to people leaving questions and then the recipient or the people that are able to answer them, being able to pick them up when they have the time appropriate. Within software development, is this a software development team organization?
Yes.
Okay. Very often you want to have planning meetings together, some kind of status check-in frequently, and then retrospect or reflect on how things went, right? Finding ways to be inclusive with that on letting people put in planning things ahead of time, putting in notes for retrospective ahead of time. That's, I guess, giving them the ability to make sure that their feedback is heard, even if they're not going to be able to be physically present, because they're going to be having dinner with their family at the time that everybody else is going to be meeting or something like that. I guess being aware of that and spending some time designing those communication channels, I think is an important thing.
Actually, you hit something really important there, where I think that some companies go remote because they're like, oh, it's cheaper, and we don't need to buy an office, and we can get all this talent from all these places. Now, admittedly, that's true in terms of you can open things up to talent that otherwise wouldn't be able to join, and I think that's great. Like it's a much broader and more diverse pool of people. Yay. However, there's a trade-off, and that is that in-person communication has incredible bandwidth. When us sitting up here, gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice, everything that comes from being in the same room together, this is how humans have evolved to communicate. And so all of that written word stuff, you really have to invest in it. People have to write very clearly, very concisely. You have to constrain those communication channels so that everything goes through that. And so I actually have a personal rule that like when you look for, I did math, and one of the things about math is I did a class in linear methods that was taught like it was in the 1960s. I mean, literally everything was pen and paper and those newfangled computers with those tape things that spin around. And one of the things that we covered is optimization problems. Your optimizations are always really at the outside of your space. They're really at the corners. And so when it comes to teams, either go full in on being remote, fully distributed, no time synchronization, or fully distributed, and if you have that big time gap, no worries about time synchronization. Meetings are as agreed upon by people. But it's not this thing of like, oh, everybody has to be following exactly the same schedule. Really enforce that things have to be going through written channels so that people can consume them asynchronously. You like go full in on that, and everybody in the team operates like that. You don't have like a couple of people that are sitting in an office and they can work together and they build this sort of us versus them culture. Everybody should really be equal. They should be starting from an equal playing field to get rid of that us versus them culture. Or you go the other way and you do fully on-site and fully collaborating together. I think the middle ground, there's just a lot of weirdness in there. You're better off to go to one of the extremes. Yeah. Does that give you a?
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
I answered a question. Okay. It's a fireside chat, like other questions. We can also go back to Twitter, but it's always great to have people here that have things that they've got questions about.
Hi, my name is Shim. I'm from Korea. Oh, sorry. I'm a project manager, and I live in Japan 13 years now. As in Korea and Japan, we are more focused on the hard skill. The people, especially engineers, they want to learn more languages, or they want to prove themselves. They know about the hard skill is stronger than the others, and they go up to the higher level of the management. But I see more importance of the becoming improve their career is soft skills, as you talked, most of you talked today. How do you sell the soft skill is important in Japanese developers? How do you do that?
Well, I know how Indeed does it. Indeed is the only company that I've worked at in Japan. Definitely doesn't have a Japanese working culture. But we have pretty strict, what we call rubrics or definitions of different levels within your career. As you move from an entry-level engineer to a team lead to like a team architect type of role, there is well-written definitions of what's expected of you at the organization. Some wise person at some point in Indeed's past wrote these behaviors such that they include soft skills, such that they include taking ownership of your product, making sure that you care about the success of your whole team and not just yourself. So it's, fortunately for me, it's part of our company culture and how people get promoted. So people are interested with their own self-motivations to, I guess, care about the teams and work on soft skills as part of what they do. We expect documentation to be done. We expect, you to care about getting your code all the way into production and that it has few amounts of bugs. These behaviors that we describe, I guess, set the expectations for people that they inhibit these behaviors. Not every organization has as such. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts?
I really like the emphasis on path to production. I think that is huge, and I think it's often underemphasized. That as developers, we should be responsible for not just building some application and then tossing it over the wall, but making sure that we understand the pieces involved, the steps involved in getting it into production, and then also what's entailed in running that application once it's in operations mode. I'm less concerned with the number of bugs and more concerned with how easy it is to fix them. And if you're writing maintainable code and if you've got a very smooth path to production, then it should be a trivial thing to fix something, to write some code and push it into production right away. That's maybe out of the scope for most individual engineers who are sitting down in a seat and writing code. But having very, very actively thinking outside of the scope of your little problem, I think is one way to approach that.
Maybe diving in a little deeper. When you're doing one-on-ones, you're coaching one of these engineers, they're really starting to talk about what it is that what do they want to accomplish? Like, what do they want for themselves? Not just even inside of work. I had my favorite answer in a one-on-one where I asked somebody, so what's your career goal? And it was to leave Indeed. And the sort of thing, it was like, I need some details there. Thank you for being honest. That's good. I'm glad you felt comfortable enough. He was like, is it me? I mean, I know I haven't showered today, but no, and it was because they wanted to start their own company. They wanted to be a startup founder. And it was like, oh, good, we can totally work with this. Because there's a lot of skills that you need as a startup founder. I founded 3 startups. No, I do not have a private jet. I have to share it with Larry and Sergey. It's really annoying. But there's a lot of skills that you need in order to be a startup founder. You have to work with, you have to go, if you want funding, you have to go talk to VCs, you have to manage people. Presumably your startup's gonna have other people. Even if it doesn't, even if you're a micropreneur and you just have your company, you have customers. Like, wow, if you think having a boss is hard, try having 30 of them. And that all have very conflicting goals. So those soft skills are what you need to succeed as an entrepreneur. And so you can, and the great thing about working at Indeed or a company that supports that is you can build them here. So I would maybe go dive in and talk to them about what they want to do. I mean, it's admittedly, if the answer is I want to be alone in a room where pizza magically appears under the door and I just type code in, that's a hard place to work from, to be fair. But the dreams can be outside of work. Like, it's not just your dreams for what you want to do with your career. What are your dreams for your life? And the soft skills that you build are things that will enable those dreams. So that's how I would tackle it. But it's really a case-by-case basis. Show people how those skills will be beneficial to helping them achieve their goals, not just beneficial for the company. Yeah.
One technique that I've employed again and again, and I've found enough success with it that I'll keep employing it until I don't find success with it, is encouraging each team member to really care about the output of the full team instead of just themselves. That an individual engineer, even if they're the 10x or 100x programmer versus their peers, them caring about their peers' growth and them teaching skills to others, them caring about people who are going to have to verify the features that they're building, them caring about the end customer, basically caring about the whole outputs of the team, the success of the team, the happiness of the team, and encouraging, I guess, teams to rely on each other and communicate with each other rather than all managing up to a manager then being managed down to again. I've found that that has natural good consequences in terms of, I guess, people building soft skills because they're motivated to help their peers and care about their success and happiness and the success of the whole team.
So I have one last way to answer this question, which is a little bit of a different twist, and that is hiring for soft skills. So my company does 100% pair programming. So all the engineers do pair programming, and pair programming is a little bit unique. It requires a certain amount of patience, of humility, of communication skills. You talked about communication skills earlier. We call it empathy, not just with your end customer, but also with the person sitting next to you, trading off driver and navigator with you as you write code. And so we actually have a special interview process where we try pair programming with our candidates in order to kind of get a gauge for where they're at with those soft skills and hire for those to come into the company. I'm not saying that you can't cultivate them inside the company, but one other approach is to hire for them.
Yeah, my team also does full-time pair programming, and I can testify to that. It's absolutely essential, and it really invests you when you pair and rotate around your team all the time. It invests you in the success of your team because you're always helping each other out. And I think making it a point to highlight it when people do that, like if somebody does something that helps another person, when they, somebody who's building a soft skill, when they actually showcase that and they really show progress, public praise really matters. Like you don't just let them do it in a vacuum and be like, well, am I doing well? It's like, no, hey, you did a great job with that. Or I saw how you communicated with that person who was maybe angry with you and you did a great job. Call those things out because that positive reinforcement is also really important. Yeah, cool. Anybody from the audience also have some ideas on this one? I was gonna say, he's got a microphone, you can pass it to you,
yeah. My name is Ziad, I'm from Unext. And last time, maybe some of you remember me from the WebAssembly presentation. And I'm a Scrum Master in a small team of 6 people. And I can, from my own experience, I can say, basically seeing yourself as a humble servant. It doesn't mean servant in a negative way. It's a way of making the best out of your team, empowering people. It doesn't need to be a high manager position to empower people. It can be just being a Scrum Master, who has is not higher than the others. It's just having the special role of de-escalation, of making things smooth, paving the path to get the project done in a very efficient way, reflecting in retrospectives and making the communication smooth, like keeping the ritual of daily stand-ups, which sometimes people tend to skip them because they get just damn busy in their projects. So I think having the bigger picture, seeing oneself in the larger organism as a part of the collective of people who want to achieve a common goal. And it means it's the success of the company and the success of the company of your own products, which makes you proud. Because if you create something, you can be proud of it. You feel proud together with your peers and you create something for users. So you need to have empathy, pouring your energy, creating something great.
I want to cut in here really quickly. Something I'm hearing in this that is also related is leading by example. Like that's what I'm hearing from here is that if you're trying to demonstrate soft skills to engineers that maybe don't believe that they're that important, you need to showcase that. You need to also have those soft skills and be willing, maybe something else that's really good as a leader is be willing to showcase your mistakes with those skills. because they're going to make mistakes. Like when you're picking up these skills. So, you know, for me, empathy was a skill I had to learn. And being willing to showcase that to other people that are struggling in the places where it's like, I totally made a mistake there. And you know what? I'm going to show that mistake to you so that you can see that it's okay to make those mistakes as you learn to build those skills. Because I think that's another reason why people shy away from it, is they're afraid of screwing up. And it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them. Yeah, cool. That was good. I was going to say, I think, did we get through your question answered? Here, was that an answer? Cool. That was a long answer, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to summarize, what I wanted to make a point of is everybody doesn't need to become a manager, can basically be having just a bit more responsibility for the team as a peer, as a de-escalator, as a mediator, encouraging your peers to get the best out of them. Like, some people are shy. They don't come up with their good skills. Maybe they don't know them even. But I think peer recognition is a very powerful tool.
Absolutely true. It's not just coming from your manager, it's being recognized by the people that work with you. And so, yeah, like recognition shouldn't just be a top-down thing. It's something that should go around a team. That's very true. Yeah. Okay. Do we have another question or topic?
So I would like to ask you a personal question. How do you...
Oh boy.
How do you measure success as a manager? Because you're also managers, right? Mm-hmm. And you're also being evaluated. So how do you define a success? What are your metrics?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. So maybe before I even start with the metric side of things, my success is the success of my team. And so if, and I actually really do take this on the chin. When I make mistakes that hurt my team, I will deliberately call them out to my manager because they should hurt me. So when we're talking about success, is your team successful? Is your team happy? Funnily enough, we have one of our marketers in Austin is working together with a woman who has her PhD in some aspect of cognitive psychology from UCLA on studying happiness and has metrics around happiness. So I'm basically like, give me your happiness metrics. I want to know how you measure happiness. Tell me. Because the happiness of your team, does your team achieve their goals? Are they advancing through their career progression the way that they feel that they want to? Are they hitting their career goals? Are you delivering for your users as well? It's not just about, well, okay, you know, we're building all this software, but are we building great things that people love to use? Because I think as engineers, that's really important. We don't want to build something and then just, you know, well, it sits there and nobody uses it. All of those things that are success for the team mean that I'm doing my job well as a manager. Also, how unimportant I am is very, very key. It's like one of the things that I make it a point to do when I start with a new team as we're working together is I will step away for a couple of days and then maybe a week and then maybe 2 weeks. And if the team is totally fine without me, things are going well. They don't, you know, if I am so unimportant that it's like, oh, Don was gone. Yeah, no, we're totally fine. We killed it. We rocked and rolled. Everything is great. It means like, wow, I have a group of people that is totally empowered to take ownership over their careers and their team. And I'm not an impediment. I am somebody that they go to for advice. I'm somebody that enables them, and that's wonderful, but they're not stuck because of me. And so those are some of my success criteria, maybe not metrics, but those are the things that I look for that tell me that I'm succeeding as a manager. Anything from?
Well, so my situation might be a little bit unique, at least from these gentlemen, in the fact that I'm running a consulting team. So effectively it's a business. So from the top down, there are some very clear business metrics that need to be achieved in order to run that team and to be successful in the eyes of at least the people above me. But it's, you know, I'm on my own career journey, and it's a learning journey. And one of the lessons that I have learned in that process is that it's really important to really try to balance other aspects about the health of the team, things like psychological safety And those are really difficult things to measure. You know, you can't focus only on driving those business metrics. So we do a lot of things in our company, like retros. Every individual team does a retro every week, of course. There's also, we do things like a whole office retro and other larger, whenever there's an opportunity to get together and you know, share feedback, there's some very clear structures for sharing feedback. And so as a leader, I really try to listen hard to that to understand what the state is of the team, because ultimately, and as I said, we're a consulting company, so our people are the business, and so it's really important to focus on that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much to add there. Those are great answers. Every time I get feedback from my team, I'm surprised by what it contains. So I'm not a very self-aware manager, I guess, about how I'm perceived or how I've done. Something that I've, after being surprised by enough feedback again and again, you get to know that about yourself. I care a lot about the happiness of my team. I measure that by how much they smile and laugh when they chat with each other, how willing they are to spend time with each other when they don't have to. I like teams with a lot of camaraderie. So fostering that and building opportunities for people to build bonds and build connections with each other, I think is pretty important. I love the term in the industry is called self-managed teams, is those teams that really don't need a leader, that know where to go to find new work, how to work it, how to resolve conflict, how to ship things, and basically iterate and pivot on their own. A self-managed team is the term for it. And there's this article, it's a really old article at this point, but in the MIT Business Review, talking about what is the role for a leader in a self-managed team that I always have to go back to. And it talks about how you need to jump in and out of the team. You know, you have to jump into the team to help course correct things that are going wrong, to understand how people are feeling, to give positive feedback from outside the team, but then you need to jump outside the team and figure out what everybody else is doing in the organization. Where is your team doing well and where could they be doing better, and how to stay politically aware to keep your team, I guess, continuing to execute well. That's something I reflect on constantly. One thing that surprised me from my boss's feedback when I get my performance reviews is that she starts my review with a summary of what my team accomplished. I was surprised to see that. I always looked at what I did as the initiatives that I started or that I managed or that I completed. And maybe I de-escalated some situations, or maybe I dealt with this hard situation over here. But she brings in the things that the team accomplished overall as the leading thing to say how I did, because it's kind of, I was there to support them through that. So that helped me understand that, I guess, as a manager, what your team is able to accomplish is more important, or it should be a way that you are measuring yourself and not just, you know, how many of X types of tasks did you get through?
Thank you very much.
Sure. I have a message that says we are going to get to wrap up fairly soon, and I have a little timer as well. That was a great question, by the way. I really like that one. And so we have time for one more. The final question. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe right up here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I lived in Japan for about 8 years, and I've worked with a lot of different corporates, traditional companies, software engineers, and working with people from many diverse backgrounds. Right now, what I do is I support a lot of entrepreneurs to grow and scale their company. And one thing that really comes up a lot is communication challenges, reality versus expectations. So what I want to know from you guys is, I'm sure as you've all managed diverse teams and managed teams across geographies, how have you adjusted your communication style to create effective results? And what was the biggest thing you learned after you made these adjustments?
Really good questions today. I can totally jump on this one, but that's also part of managing my communication style, is I tend to be very sort of like, oh, I want to answer the question. I'm like Hermione Granger, who's just like, ooh, I know the answer. So please, would either of you care to jump in before I do? I make it a point to invite other people so that I don't just like take all the oxygen in the room.
Yeah, I'll do a real quick one before I hand it over. I've found in Japan in particular that I need to shut up a lot more. And in particular in meetings, leave long pauses. It's so tempting when there's a pause and the timer clicks 1 second, 1,000, 2,000, to think, okay, well, nobody else has anything to add. But instead, to just let it hang there for an uncomfortably, at least for me, long time. And that creates a safe space for other people to offer something. And then there's one other thing. The other thing is, so first is the long pause. The second one is going around the room and scanning everybody's eyes. And if somebody's looking at me, then calling them by name. And because sometimes the fact that they're looking is a signal that maybe they're thinking about saying something but aren't quite coming out with it. So those are two concrete tricks.
I will count to 10, by the way, in my head, and I'll actually sit there and be like, yeah, so that's one of my tools.
This is a tool that I'm still working on, but more active listening, more making sure that you restate what you heard and confirm that is what was actually meant by the other person is a technique that I'm trying to employ more. As I guess, my team is very diverse here in Tokyo. We've got 14 nationalities represented on our team. And so there's a lot of challenges there with people who like to communicate in different ways. So yeah, more making sure that you adapt your listening style to the communication style of the person that you're engaging with, and making sure that you confirm that you understood what they meant is some tools that I'm working on right now.
I think I've got maybe two big ones. The first one is, and I'm kind of echoing the psychological safety thing, making it really, really clear with people, especially in cultures like Japan, where telling your boss that they made a mistake in Japan, ooh, that's a hard thing here. Going to your manager and saying like, I disagree with you, that's a really, really hard thing here. And so not only in one-on-ones, but making it really clear that it's okay to criticize me. I will invite criticism. I welcome criticism. Every time somebody criticizes me, I thank them. I really open that up because it's very, very hard, especially in cultures where you have that strict sense of you don't criticize. Also providing alternate channels that try and accommodate that. I had an all Japanese team when I was running Skyscanner here, and so the open forum of the retrospective really didn't work for them, because it was like, well, we don't want to, like, I don't want to be the person who stands up in front of everybody and complains. And so rather than having it like the way that we ended up doing our retrospectives is I would actually collect the things that people wanted to beforehand and write them out myself and put them up, so that way it wasn't visibly attributed to somebody else. And so now it was something we could discuss because it was a little bit more anonymized. So that's another one. Also, echoing back to the culture coaching, finding if I'm working with people across nationalities and I'm finding myself struggling, or even if I'm just in sort of, terra incognita and I don't really understand this culture, finding somebody who does, maybe who's lived for an extended period of time in that, and talking to them about what the differences are so that I can work to best accommodate those. This is a culture where people are quieter. It's like, oh, I need to make adaptations for that, so that way I can try and be a little bit more aware of what's going on. I know I'm not going to get it right all the time, but I think that especially extending the olive branch and showing that you're going at least part of that distance really counts for a lot of people. So yeah, those are, I think, some of my adaptations, and also inviting other people, once again, to get it wrong. It's okay. It's totally fine to make those mistakes and to not hit it all the time. Maybe they're not even mistakes. Maybe they're things that we should be doing differently. And so bring your uniqueness into the team and let us all kind of grow together, and really inviting that. It's hard. It's really hard. You've asked a really tough question, which unfortunately we're now out of time, so I can stop answering the tough question. I think this is according to my watch, which is now annoying me. Please stop, thank you. It is now time to wrap things up and do some networking. So I guess this means we can put the microphones away, talk freely amongst yourselves, and feel free to come up and continue the discussion, but without the microphones. Yeah, so thank you so much for asking great questions and for joining. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that fireside chat and QA. So yes, like Dom just said, we now are going into our mingling and networking section. Again, please keep in mind that we will be starting to head out at 9:45, so that is in about 25 minutes. So go ahead, mingle, talk, network, and yes, we'll see you at the next event. Thank you so much.